Hello, I'm Darks, and welcome back for another Space Engineers video. Today we're going to be attempting to launch and link up several parts of a space station from the planet into space while the player remains on the planet's surface. I did do an attempt at this on Twitch a couple of weeks ago and it went wrong. It seemed there was some issue with the event controller detecting unmerging of merge blocks. So I've changed that around, but we'll go through the setup as we go along. This first module here, which is the white and grey area, is an oxygen module holding several oxygen tanks for when an engineer eventually does go and visit the station. There'll be plenty to breathe. The blue parts are the booster modules. The original design had just the Atmo thruster on the bottom to push up. Unfortunately, the initial version with just the Atmo thrusters wasn't able to get very high up before they became dead weight. So it's been readjusted. They now have half as much battery and several small hydrogen tanks in them, which are going to supply the thrusters of the module with hydrogen until I think it's around about 8,000 meters, at which point they will disconnect and drop back to the planet, using parachutes to slow their descent, and the module will continue on from there. I'll go through how the modules work as the first one's going up. The second module here is a battery module, which is of course a bit heavier than the first one. And then the third one is the heaviest of the lot, is a cargo module. Currently it's empty. I'm not sure if I'm going to put some cargo in or not. Probably not. I'll use it for gathering resources from space and stuff later, and or if I send more materials up later I can dock it there. This one additionally has 1/3 connection point on the lower side there, which has got its own booster arm because of the amount of weight that it's got, and also to give me more shape options for putting together the space station. So we're going to launch this now. I will just put the player in a cockpit. Switch to the spectator cam so we can watch this. Obviously this will hopefully not be required. So all I'm going to do is go in. I'm only going to do the first two boosters because the third one's on a different device, and push start. T minus 5 seconds. So the starting point turns on the thrust override of all thrusters that are pointing straight up, including the hydrogen ones, and it turns on several event controllers. So when the speed of the grid drops below 95 or 97, I can't remember which one, meters a second, the hydrogen thrusters will toggle on. When it goes over 98, it'll toggle back off, and that'll allow the hydrogen to kick in as soon as the atmospheric start slowing down how useful they are, and won't wait until they cut off completely. So the atmospheric thrusters will still be putting in quite a bit of work right until they cut off. Then the next set of event controllers detects when the small connectors are disconnected. It was originally the merge blocks, but as I said, there was an issue with that. So when that's disconnected, the hydrogen tanks on board the module will come off stockpile and allow the module to keep moving. Up there you can see we've got to the end of the point where the atmospheric is useful. It's around about 5,000 meters on this grid, when it stops being useful altogether, but when it reduces so that it can't maintain a good speed. So in another couple of thousand meters the side pods will detach. They've got some more event controllers on them themselves. For example, the detachment is done by those. They've also got parachutes that will open at 1,000 meters and allow a nice slow descent. And they've got several event controllers tied in with action relay. So when it detaches, we will get a message. I'll bring the screen on. See there, shows detached. Part of the disconnect is to remove the pull of the side connectors so that they do get pushed slightly off course. And now the next event controller that will kick in, apart from the toggle on off the thrusters, is when it reaches space, but it actually starts a timer to move slightly away from the gravity well before stopping. So we'll come back when it's ready to do that stage. just slow it down for a second here to show that by looking onto the event controller that detects the gravity being 0, we can actually see how close to space it's getting from there. I'm just wondering if there's a way to feed that back. Probably require scripts to feed it back as a countdown. It would be quite a useful thing to do at some point. But we'll come back when this reaches 0. I thought I had a delay setting there, but those reverse thrusters turned on immediately. So as you can see, this one is now in orbit, 44 kilometers away from the base. So cut back down and we'll just see what happened to the boosters. So one of the boosters is right here. And the other booster seems to be stuck in the air. Let's go check out why. Glad this isn't my Nerf jetpack playthrough. Ah, it's turned sideways. Have to make sure that doesn't happen. I did have the engineer set to dampen to this, I wonder if it kept with it. Just take this one on the far side. Just need to check that the because it didn't land, it didn't do all of its work. So what I will do to make sure that all the event controllers are triggered, let's just land this temporarily down on the ground here. Well, it looks like the engineer did follow it actually, because that wouldn't have shown me that angle if it didn't. In case they get pushed aside when they land, one of the event controller actions is to trigger an action relay to give me the GPS. As you can see there, it's done that for both boosters. So because it's landed, it's done all the things the event controller does, including turning on the forward thruster, which is supposed to be off during the descent. And it also turns the event controllers and timer blocks back to a place that's ready for the next launch. So the only thing I have to do is set the... It turns on the merge blocks as well. So the only thing I have to do is turn on the stockpile when I link it back to the next grid. And the merge block is... the camera is sitting on one of the merge blocks. Because I've got the mod on, I can get a better look. Although what I think is probably better for landing is actually see from an external view. Probably I should have put a second remote control on that connects for the connection point, so it controls from a better angle. Am I still dampened to it? I am. If I was doing a large grid version, I'd definitely make those changes, but I think for this small grid version, I'm just going to learn to control it for with these little idiosyncrasies. Now I'll change back this one, make sure I'm lined up. Oh, that's like connected. So So let's canvas in each of those again for the next flight. And the B2 connector lock. And stockpile the 3 tanks. Now the other thruster landed properly, so this will be much easier to do because it's already done its event controllers to turn on its various blocks. So all we need to do, control, info. To be fair, when I'm flying at this short distance I'm probably not going to need to know its name, but I like to keep it normal. Turn on its thrusters and I was originally going to put AI blocks in to fly it back to base, but for that was just overcomplicating it for a small grid one that's not going to be too useful long term. If I make a large grid version, I'll probably have it fly back on its own and take it all the way to space so that the modules don't have thrust in every direction, or don't need to have. So one lesson I learned both on Twitch and since was that the modules sometimes need to have the boosters cut off at different heights. On this particular one, if it stays on beyond sort of 7,000-8,000, the amount of push that is left in the outboard thruster isn't sufficient to outweigh its own weight. So I've reduced that down to 7,500 so that it'll cut off a bit sooner. I've changed the launch block for B2 to unlock this connector underneath the battery module. And I just want to make sure that I've turned on the undock event controller. I have, good. So, let's grab launch, B1, B2, start, T-minus 5 seconds. I'm hoping that by locking the spectator onto the booster area, it'll stick with that. I don't know how it reacts with the spectator with the unmerge. So we'll find out. It might just take the biggest grid bit, in which case it'll continue to follow the module. See from the GPS markers there, we're almost at the 7.5. Go, boosters are detached. It didn't stick with them, so let's see if I can realign to one of them. Go. So we'll follow this booster down instead and just let that module continue on its way. Well, so once it reaches 1,000, chutes come open. Don't know if anybody noticed there as well, when it hit the 7.5, the message did pop up again telling us it was detached. That's turning very much sideways again, isn't it? Wonder how the weight's so far off on one booster that it's rotating. I'll fetch the boosters, put them back on, and we'll have a look at this third one. Set up the third module now. It didn't have any of its automation done, so I've done that, and let's give it a whirl. Launch. All three at once. T-minus 5 seconds. Looks like it's going to pass right between the other two. Should start slamming on the brakes soon. Angle up so we can see. And that should now have its antenna on. Can't control it from because I'm in spectator. Maybe nothing down here has a long range antenna. There we go, all three modules are controllable. Okay, booster 1 and booster 3 are both here already in the little valley. Booster 2 was again hanging a kilometre or so in the air. So it seems like it's having a problem. I've got a theory. When I rebuilt booster 1 and booster 2, I must have done something slightly different in booster 2 because I used booster 1 for the blueprint that I printed to make 3, so oh well. Having to bring that down a kilometre each time isn't a big deal. So let's go grab some modules and start moving them closer together. Just kind of drawn the wrong module there. There we go. The battery module is the furthest away, so I guess we'll go to the cargo module and use that as the origin. As you can see from the bottom right corner there, most of the hydrogen's been preserved, so I've got plenty for manoeuvring. If I use things like this inertial dampen off drift, we can save even more. So when I designed these, they do have multiple connection points available. My intention is to primarily use the arms, the small ones, for these side modules and leave the big ones available for docking ships at a later time if needed. Let's side loop. Turn sideways and we will switch to port. Nope. Starboard. Oh, it is port. It's just don't have the angle right enough yet. Yeah, I don't think this is really well done. Don't show multiple remote connections for this. That's the left side, then this should be better. And the camera's on the lower. Oh, well, we have to link right off to the actual way the box will be worth it long term. Left. Oh, didn't mean to do that. So those two are now connected and conveyed together. So I think for the second one we'll try the other connection method. I'm going to turn to use the port camera again just because obviously I've already practiced using that for maneuverability. So roll over, go straight up, and roll B. I'll roll a picture on everything else. Go into the terminal, and then to save a bit of power, antenna, keep the cargo module since that's acting as the middle one, turn off the other two, and that uses less power now to keep the transmission. And battery module port. There we go. They're all three of them are now connected and linked up, and if we switch over, you'll see the beginnings of a space station coming together. I'll start working on some designs for some more modules. I'm going to need a renewable energy source, so I'm thinking solar, of course. I might do a wing for each side, so stick on to those two. And I'm also going to need a module for engineers to go in and out. Might even build an airlock, a separate airlock to put on that piece. Could be an interesting one. So I'll design some more modules and I'll do a second video to follow up from. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more Space Engineers.